Happy Victory Monday, Broncos country. Denver sitting at 5-3 with the NFL trade deadline on Tuesday, November 5th. That is just 8 days from today. May decide after winning their 5th game in the last 6 weeks. You know what? Let's be buyers at the trade deadline. Let's add to our roster. So let's discuss the latest trade rumors around the NFL going into now week 9 with the Broncos sitting, like I said, at 5-3. I'm going to give you guys an unpopular opinion that I don't think you want to hear, but I think you need to hear. And that is, I am not sold on Denver being big-time buyers because of wins over a injury-depleted Saints team and a one-win Panthers team. Now, that doesn't mean the Denver Broncos can't be a good team beyond those 2 weeks, but I don't think we should look at these last 2 wins as evidence and as reasoning for the Broncos to go out and be big spenders before the trade deadline and bring a bunch of players in and give up some valuable draft assets. I'm talking about valuable draft assets. We're talking about 6th or 7th round picks. That to me doesn't really matter too much. But we're talking, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, maybe even 5th round picks. Then I don't think we should look at the last 2 weeks and go, yeah, after those 2 games, we should be determined to go out and bring in a big or a notable name because we have a really good football team at 5-3. The Broncos might have a really good football team, but it's not going to be because they beat the Saints and the Panthers. I mean, look at their next 2 games here with the Ravens and the Chiefs, both those games coming on the road. You got back-to-back games against the AFC finalists from last season. I would look at it as if the Broncos can compete and go right down to the wire with the Ravens, win or lose, then that to me shows this is a team that can really hang with the best of them in the AFC. Now, the deadline is before the Chiefs game, by the way, but even if they're unable to beat the Ravens, at 5-4, I'm still okay with the Broncos being buyers if they show us in that Ravens game that is a team that can go right with the best of them, but they are just one piece away. And if they feel like, hey, we just showed that we can hang with anyone and we need to go get this one position, then absolutely go get that one position. But I don't think the Broncos should be buyers before that Ravens game. I think they should let this Ravens game play out, and then after that, we can reassess and not make any decision or a judgment because they beat 2 teams who have a combined 3 wins before Halloween. That, to me, is just not a good enough body of evidence to go, we definitely know what this Broncos team is. Let's bring in some reinforcements, and let's give up some good draft capital. Again, I'm only really talking about the good draft capital. Like I said, rounds 1 through 5, in my opinion. 6th and 7th round picks, do whatever you want with them. They hardly ever amount to anything. Now, before we look at some trade rumors, including a Broncos player and some trade targets, we are so close to reaching 27,000 subscribers. We are a little over 200 subs away. So if you are looking for a free Broncos YouTube channel, I invite you to subscribe. We put out daily content. We do watch parties throughout the season. So hop aboard and join one of the largest growing Broncos communities out there. So Baron Browning, after the win on Sunday, was asked about some of the trade rumors tossed out there surrounding his name. He said, quote, I can only control what I can control. I have to stay in the moment. I do what I can to help this team win games. I would like to stay here. I don't want to leave, but some things are out of my control. To me, it sounds like Baron Browning got a phone call from his agent saying, so the Broncos are shopping you and they are nearing a trade. That's just the way I interpret it, especially that last part of his message about I can only control what I can control, but I would like to stay here if I can, but I know some things are out of my control. To me, that reads, Browning, someone has an idea that a trade very well could be coming, but nothing's finalized yet, so don't put your foot in your mouth. Browning missed 4 weeks this year with a foot injury, which unfortunately has caused him to miss a handful of miss 4 games, which unfortunately has caused him to miss a lot of opportunities to get sacks and get those precious stats we look for. But on top of just missing games, I mean, even since he's come back from the injury, he clearly is not a starter on this team anymore. It is Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper, without a doubt. Bonito put together another sack on Sunday to make it 6 straight games with 6 sacks in total. So Browning has lost his starting gig, which is why I am definitely on the open to listening to trade calls and offers for Baron Browning. Over the weekend, Ian Rapoport put out a article with what he's hearing right now, and he included, well, what do you know, Mr. Browning. He said, Browning's playing time has dwindled in Denver, and he's in a contract year. He could be available. Denver has depth at that position. Linebacker Jonathan Cooper could draw interest as well. Well, Ian, I'll tell you right now, Cooper's not going anywhere, but Browning very well could be going somewhere because I could see a team looking at him as, hey, this is a candidate that's not going to cost us very much. He's in a contract year, so we're not tied to him beyond this year for any financial obligation. And last year, he put together 4.5 sacks in 10 games. No, those aren't Pro Bowl numbers, but if you stretch 4.5 sacks out over 17 games, you're looking at around 8 to 9 sacks, and you're probably going to find some teams that are interested in capturing that player for the second half of the season with a fresh start somewhere else where he can maybe have a little bit of a larger role on the defense, and he's not getting buried on the depth chart behind Bonito and Cooper. So for that reason, I am open to trading Browning. I mean, it's not even a sign of this team should sell. It's more of a sign of he's in a contract year, so you're not trading someone away that could be a starter for you next year, and he's not starting right now. So if a team wants to give you a decent draft offer, I mean, then why not even consider it, right? Look at the Broncos' 2025 draft picks for a moment. Wouldn't you want to add another pick to this group right here of 6? You don't have a 5th rounder. That went to the Dolphins for the Bradley Chubb trade. You don't have a 7th. That's part of the Albert O trade from last year. So, yeah, you're probably not going to get much from Browning, but you could add another 6th-round draft pick, bundle those 6th-round picks during the draft, maybe move up into round 5. And, I mean, in round 5, you can find some quality depth and some good special teamers in that spot, which I know that won't be a big contributor to this year, but Browning's not a very big contributor to this year. So why not look for the future a little bit while also still keeping yourself available this year to be contenders? So would you trade Baron Browning? Give me a yes or give me a no down below in the comment section. For me, it comes down to, for a good enough offer, I'd consider it for sure. I'm not looking to run the guy out of town. I like Baron Browning. I think we have seen that he has developed nicely from an inside linebacker to an outside linebacker. But if a team becomes desperate for a pass rusher and they give you a 5th-round pick for him, you tell me you would say no to a 5th-rounder for a guy who's playing less than 50% of snaps on defense? I have a hard time saying no to that. Now, next up on the show, I want to look at some trade targets for the Broncos. If they decide, okay, we really want to surround Bo Nix with some more talent, or we want to plug a couple of holes elsewhere on our team, who could we go get? Well, I've got 4 names to look for. But first, a quick shout out to our sponsor today, which is Game Time. Game Time has an awesome feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. One thing I really like about Game Time is they offer the Game Time guarantee. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHAT Sports for $20 off. I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. It's also time to look at some trade targets for Sean and George Payton, starting with New York Jets wide receiver and familiar foe from the AFC West, Mike Williams. The Jets, if we can just take a moment, are an absolute laughingstock of the National Football League. They traded a premium draft pick for Davante Adams, who joined a losing team from a losing team, and 2-5 in New Jersey. But Williams this year has not been a focal point of the offense, and especially with Adams being added to this mix now, I mean, the targets are going to go to Garrett Wilson and Davante Adams. So it's in Mike Williams' best interest to go somewhere where he can command more of a command a larger market of the offense. And the Jets can try and get a pick for someone that's not playing much in a season that is not going anywhere. Plus, unfortunately, the Broncos are a little bit shorthanded at wide receiver. Josh Reynolds was shot after leaving a club last Friday following the Broncos' Thursday night win against the Saints. He was not in New Orleans. He was on IR, so he was back in Denver, so no issue with that. But a scary scene nevertheless. He got shot in the arm, shot in the back of the head. And, I mean, if you go back to, it's not apples to apples, but 49ers receiver Ricky Pearsall, he was shot before the season started, and he still has not played a game yet. So, again, can't compare all victims of a shooting incident, but if Reynolds misses extended time because of this, I could see the Broncos going, we need to go out and get another wide receiver, and it's not going to cost to get Mike Williams much because, well, the Jets don't have much leverage sitting at 2-5. Next player to watch for, also in the AFC East, KJ Osborn. Patriots also just not quite as bad of a dumpster fire of the Jets since they'd still beat them, but they are also still kind of a dumpster fire. And the Patriots and KJ Osborn have just not been a very good fit this season. Just 7 grabs, 57 yards, 1 touchdown. To me, this seems like a no-brainer. If I'm New England, you're not going to get much. The Patriots are lucky to get a 2026 7th-round pick for him. But for the Broncos, if they want to find another receiver similar to Mike Williams that could fill the void a little bit for Josh Reynolds potentially missing some time, I could see Osborn being even a cheaper option. I'll also add one more thing to the Mike Williams portion. I mean, we saw Troy Franklin drop a easy pass from Bo Nix. Mike Williams, who really prides himself on his vertical ability and those deep shots, I wouldn't say that he was, well, I will say he probably would have caught that football. So if there is some frustration growing of, hey, Bo Nix is developing nicely, but he needs some help from his receivers, especially on these deep passes, Mike Williams could be an easy plug-and-play option at that spot. All right, let's bundle these last 2 guys together. They both play for the same team. It is Adam Thielen from the Panthers and Diontae Johnson. Neither guy played on Sunday. Had they played, maybe the Broncos scouting staff and coaching staff could have gotten a closer look at one of the 2 of these guys here, but neither one played, like I said, which could make them a little bit easier to trade, meaning maybe the Panthers somewhat intentionally shut them down as to not get injured before they move them, just like Josh Uche for the Patriots who went to the Chiefs today. But Thielen has missed a lot of time this season with a hamstring injury, so Johnson also dealing with a rib injury. There is definitely some medical research to be done on these 2 guys, and I'll leave that up to the team, but let's just say there's a world where both guys are healthy and they could be immediate contributors for the Broncos. There are pros and cons to both of them here. Adam Thielen, I think, would be a better fit for Bo Nix as a veteran receiver who could really help out a young rookie quarterback in his development. However, Thielen's a lot more expensive. He's got 1 more year on his contract beyond this season, so you're not just signing up for the rest of this year. You've also got about $8 million in cash to pay out, so you'd be picking up a decent bar tab from the Panthers. Meanwhile, Diontae Johnson, he is only under contract for the rest of this season. His cash remaining is at about $3.5 million, so not as expensive as Thielen. Now, the money is something I don't want you guys to get fixated on too much, simply because remember when Von Miller got traded? The Broncos got a 2nd and a 3rd because they ate a lot of that cap for the Rams. So if cash is an issue for Denver, which it's definitely not, but if cap space is an issue, they could ask the Panthers to eat a lot of that remaining salary in exchange for a better draft pick. So there's always some wiggle room when it comes to the money side of things. One name that I think really gravitates towards our audience is Diontae Johnson, simply because he's probably the biggest name of the bunch when it comes to proven ability to be a true number 1 wide receiver. 1,000 yards not too many moons ago for the Steelers. Had a good start this year with the Panthers and a horrible offense. And you can see what it cost the Panthers to get him before the season started. So it did include a player swap, and I would say Diontae Johnson's value has probably gone up a little bit since the spring when he was dealt. So maybe you could get Diontae Johnson for a 5th-round draft pick. So who would you want to trade for of the 4 guys we looked at today, or someone else we did not mention? For me, I really like the idea of trading for Adam Thielen. I just don't know if you want to tie yourself to having Thielen on your books for next year as well, because when he signed that 3-year contract with the Panthers, it was somewhat understood that, well, at your age, it's going to be a year-to-year scenario. And the Broncos could move on from him after this year, but then they would be the ones taking on a decent dead cap hit. I like Mike Williams. I always thought he was a solid receiver for the Chargers when he was healthy, and he's healthy right now. He's just not in a good scenario in New York with there being a crowded receiver room and the team being 2-5. So Mike Williams, to me, makes a ton of sense. Plus, he's definitely got some familiarity with the Broncos, and plenty of Broncos coaching staff members have some eyes and some memories of going up against Mike. So this could be a nice win-win for both parties. So of the 4 guys there, I would probably pick Mike Williams to come in and really help, develop Bo Nix by hopefully catching a couple of those really bad drop passes we have seen the last couple of weeks. All right, that will do it for us on today's episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like the video, and I'll catch you all next week.